And I remember the time that I sat down and went through those patient stories, and there was a great big pile of patient stories that were published at the time. I spent the whole weekend going through them, and like anybody, like any human being, particularly someone who spent almost all of their professional life in the NHS trying to improve service to patients, it was a deeply saddening process. And out of that, what I said to everybody, in fact I wrote to all the chairs and chief executives saying that every board should read those patient stories. They weren't statistics, they weren't targets, they were patient stories. And in terms of understanding the way a culture operates, understanding those stories is really important. All I could do in those circumstances, as you know, is to apologise to those people, because not only did they get really poor, appalling care, but also when they faced the NHS with these issues, the NHS denied it happened, which would just be absolutely appalling.
So people are running an organisation, they don't know what's going on.
Well, as I say,
that's effectively what you're saying.
The SHA was not operationally responsible for the trust, and there is an issue about accountability here that I just want to explain. Part of the issue here, I think, is that people think that they see the NHS as an organisation when it actually isn't. It's a healthcare system. It's a whole set of statutory bodies with their own legal responsibilities. And Mid Stafford NHS Trust was a statutory body with its own accountable officer, accountable to Parliament. And the system is built up to make that accountability run at hospital level. And as you can read by Francis' report, both of his reports say that the primary accountability for what went wrong at Mid Stafford Hospital was that particular hospital. And those individuals were held to account. And as you know, the chair, the non-executive directors, the chief executive, the finance director, the corporate affairs director, the medical director all went. The nurse director was moved. So it's not true to say that people weren't held to account in the NHS. They were, and they were. My accountability was very different from that. It's certainly unfair to say that I'm a process man. Anyone who works with me or understands the way I work know that I'm absolutely focused on improving services for patients. And certainly in my substantive job, which was as the chief executive of Birmingham, the Black Country, there are lots of examples of how I drove patient improvement there, particularly around people with long-term conditions and hospital services. So there is a good record. The issue for me is that during that period, across the NHS as a whole, not just in that part of the world, but in the NHS as a whole, patients were not the centre of the way the system operated. For a whole variety of reasons. Not because people were bad or anything like that, but because there was a whole set of changes going on. There was a whole set of things that we were being held to account from the centre, which created an environment where the leadership of the NHS lost its focus. And I'll put my hands up to that, and I was part of that as it went. But in a sense, my learning through all of that is never to let it happen again.